It's not personal, Sonny. It's strictly business.
You know that old saying, it's business, not personal. Well, what does that mean? It means that just like the gangster movies, if something bad were to happen to you, don't take it personal. It's strictly business. It's the nature of how things unfold. Would we get mad at a lion if it did not want to eat vegetables? Of course not. A lion is an obligate carnivore, which means that it's in the lion's nature to eat meat. It's just a fact of life that cannot be changed. And in this video, I'm going to demonstrate that it is also a fact of reality that business, by its very nature, is a concept that is undemocratic, hierarchical, and ultimately destructive. And the world we see around us that has been plagued by inequality, violence, ecological destruction, and corruption is simply a result of a global society that has been driven by the business mindset. Okay, so what is a business? A business is an organization that seeks to provide a good and service at a cost to those who need it. Businesses are the opposite of charity. Whereas charity or community service is done for free, with the intention of providing service without a cost, you cannot get what you need from a business unless you give them money in exchange or exchange something of value in return for what they provide. Fair enough. Seems totally normal, right? You engage in that mutual exchange where you provide money to the business or corporation for their service and they make their profits and, well, both sides are happy, right? Well, in this channel, we engage in critical thinking and systems thinking to understand the structural forces that drive society and the different mechanisms of capitalism that interact with our world to produce negative outcomes that are irregardless of our intention. Basically, if a system causes certain behavioral outcomes, we cannot blame people or corporations or governments for the problems that we see. Unless we change the system, the same problems will continue to exist. Since capitalism is a system that is based on preserving scarcity and exploiting scarcity for profits, then every person, corporation, and government is forced to abide by the game rules of competition, indifferent self-interest, and short-sightedness in order to survive economically within that game. And it is exactly that short-sightedness that leads to corporations engaging in so-called corrupt behavior to make profits. We can't be upset at oil companies if they shut down renewable energy or other more sustainable methods of energy for society because, hey, they have to make their profits. And they're competing with other corporations who are doing the same exact thing to maintain their market share.
This is business, not personal.
Remember, we live in a psychopathic economic model that on one side recognizes scarcity, so people have to work for a living to pay for things that they need, but on the other side, it promotes infinite consumption on a finite planet. And since every company is forced to compete with their rivals to stay relevant in this nonsensical economic game of growth and profits, it all becomes a zero-sum game. We live in a world where nothing can be provided for free. And even with automation affording society the ability to do away with repetitive and mundane labor, we can't give people a better standard of living because we still live in a labor for income paradigm, so only corporations and the ruling class benefit from automation. They increase their profits while average people are laid off and unable to make a decent living. And if they can't afford to purchase the necessities of life that those corporations own, that is just too bad. So you see, business is an indifferent and life-blind concept because even if we live in a world of abundance and efficiency with 21st century technology, since we live in a monetary paradigm which maintains artificial scarcity, large megacorporations will have ultimate power over the lives of the masses. The people must submit to the system. They have to submit to soul-crushing and repetitive labor that robs them of the best years of their lives in order to survive and pay for food, shelter, and everything else. The business mindset is an isolationist perspective that does not recognize systems or larger structural forces. It is a narrow-minded and myopic viewpoint that only cares about maintaining profits and economic relevance. There is also the totalitarian and fascist nature of business that must be addressed. The book Business as a System of Power by Robert Brady is a great resource that I recommend to anyone who wants to dive deeper into the subject. The book explores the dynamics of power within business structures and their implications for democracy and society. Brady argues that businesses operate as systems of power that prioritize profit and control over democratic principles and social welfare. This concentration of so much power in the hands of very few people leads to several negative outcomes. 1. Undemocratic governance. Businesses often prioritize the interest of shareholders over the broader public good, leading to decisions that undermine the needs of the majority and civic engagement. 2. Economic inequality. The consolidation of power within large corporations can exacerbate economic disparities as wealth becomes concentrated among a small elite, diminishing opportunities for the wider population. It's no mystery that since 2020, the top billionaires of the world doubled their wealth while 5 billion people, over half the planet's population, made 30% less in their incomes. This is oligarchy of the ruling class, and it is going to lead to the worst totalitarian outcomes imaginable. 3. Influence on policy. Powerful businesses can exert significant influence over political and regulatory frameworks, often focusing on their interests at the expense of society's needs. This happens all the time, as megacorporations use their money to manipulate the government in favor of corporate agendas. And this is why we can never, ever have a true democracy as long as we have a monetary system, since the wealthy can use their money to advertise their positions of advantage in government and society. The best example is the 2010 Citizens United ruling by the Supreme Court that removed any limits on corporate lobbying in government, which means that independent expenditures by corporations is seen as freedom of speech. How ridiculous. This is not an accident. It is simply a mathematical guarantee of the direction that society goes when we have a system based on competition and indifferent self-interest. And 4, the issue of social consequences. The focus on maximizing profits at all costs results in negative social outcomes, such as environmental deregulation, poor labor practices, and the erosion of community values. Actually, the deregulation of everything in society is the ultimate expression of free market principles, since under capitalism, everything should be up for sale, nothing should be sacred. That includes government, water, and human dignity.
This is the business we've chosen.
Overall, Brady's book highlights the inherent tension that exists between business operations and democratic ideals. And my take on it is that there is literally no way, absolutely no way to regulate this out-of-control business mindset. It is ultimately idiotic, toxic, cancerous, and destructive. One of the worst aspects of the business mentality is that it literally fights against progress itself. Corporations have historically always shut down better methods of managing society because those methods may interfere with their bottom line. From sustainable food production to renewable energy to using technology to free people from hard labor, every avenue of society has been stifled and held back because, again, we live in a business society that is driven by institutional self-preservation. And this establishment paralysis is totally dogmatic and unscientific, having a huge effect on the social values of the population who continue to support mechanisms that unknowingly further their own oppression. And whether we like it or not, there is no way to vote our way out of this mess. Sure, we can vote for administrations and policies to minimize the harm being done to society, but to think that we can engage with the democratic process, or the so-called democratic process, to bring about positive long-term change is pure delusion. Now, there are several studies that debunk and destroy the notion that there is any chance of society moving in a better direction if we continue with the value ethic of business as usual. There is a study by Berkeley University on how wealth and power leads to immoral outcomes and behaviors, meaning that higher social wealth predicts increased unethical behavior. And who has the most wealth? Well, the owners of the corporations. These people are not healthy individuals. They are mentally ill and should be put into rehabilitation centers for therapy, not in charge of society in any way. There's the Princeton Study by Martin Gilens and Benjamin Page that exposes the so-called democratic process of the United States, the most free market society in history. The study states, quote, "The preferences of the average American appear to have only a minuscule, near zero, statistically non-significant impact upon public policy." This means that Congress literally does not give a shit what you think. It will continue to favor elitist business interests at the expense of the 99%. And finally, there is the study by the mathematical department of Tufts University, which shows without a doubt that the end result of any free market capitalist system is oligarchy, with one person having all the wealth while everyone else has virtually nothing. A never-ending inequality-generating machine. And with the upcoming presidential election in the US, we are nearing that mathematically guaranteed end result, with one candidate who is a corporate prostitute, nothing more than a puppet of Wall Street and big business, and the other candidate, a billionaire, sociopath businessman who demands that society be ruled overtly by billionaires.
In the United States, along with much of the world, Europe is having the same general problem. We're seeing a rise in pro-market fascistic entities on the political realm. The United States has its resident Trump, but we have plenty of others like that. And the constituencies they represent, if you look deeply, they all embrace the basic, hierarchical, totalitarian, dictatorial, pro-self-regulating market neuroses and belief system. If you're in the United States and have paid attention to recent Supreme Court rulings, you will see this trajectory once again in motion, from the removal of the Chevron deference to the presidential immunities ruling. It's all about solidifying power, destroying regulatory democratic aspects, and making sure that the market god prevails. Perhaps the most defining foundation, in fact, of what we call conservative thinking.
In fact, I would argue that we should allow the 1% to be our kings and queens under capitalism. Because as long as we maintain the system, it's going to happen whether we like it or not. So to me, it is no surprise that we are in this horrible situation. It is a guaranteed outcome of a society run by the business mindset. Man, pretty depressing stuff, right? Well, not exactly. As things get progressively worse in our world and society in general, those of us who want a better direction for humanity, well, we have to use every single opportunity to expose the fraudulent nature of the system. So every single problem, every single corruption scandal that we see should be used as ammunition and evidence to expose the system and ensure that we insist to the population that we must transition to an economic system that is really, well, beyond capitalism. Capitalism is not working. It's not going to work. It's never going to work. We have to destroy the system. We have to abolish it, okay? We have to be brutally honest and ruthless when it comes to systems, but have compassion when it comes to people, okay? And that is really ultimately my ideology. And the solution is not rocket science. It's not. Instead of having a society run by business and money, we use the scientific method to do research and investigation on how to arrive at the best answers and decisions that really bring about a true participatory democracy that benefits everyone. With the ever-increasing advancements of science and technology, such as information technology and AI, we can transform the democratic process to one where everyone can input their ideas and a filtering mechanism can be enabled that helps us get to the answers we need for a better world. And for all the people who fear technology and artificial intelligence, that is not the main issue. The main problem is not the use of AI and technology. The main problem is the distorted and sick social values that facilitate the problems that we see in the world. Technology is simply an amplifier. It's an amplifier of our intentions. If we have the right intentions with the right social values, well, technology can actually be an enabler of the best attributes of humanity. And that is really the ultimate core of using the scientific method and applying the scientific method towards society itself. Technology should be used to liberate us and create a sustainable and egalitarian world that works for the benefit of everyone, as opposed to an elite few. But the path is not going to be an easy one. Absolutely not. We're going to have to fight with everything we have. This system is going to sink deeper and deeper into authoritarianism, as we see with the rise of right-wing fascism in Europe and many other parts of the world. But in the end, the power rests with the people. The power rests with you and I. We're going to have to do the best we can to transform minds. In the end, that's really what it comes down to. This channel is meant to educate, inspire, galvanize, and motivate us to really awaken minds. We're here to transform minds, guys. It is a war of values in the end. And, well, I wish you guys all the best of luck out there. And I hope this video was instrumental to your understandings. And please share it with others. Yeah, I'm done. I'm done ranting. Hope to see you next time. All right, peace.